Hello, Calgary Catholic teachers, and welcome to the Getting Started with the Phonics Companion recording video. My name is Kimberly Goosen, and I am the new curriculum consultant for EL K-3. Today, we're going to take a look at the Phonics Companion Guide, both digitally and some of the templates, as well as how to implement a lesson. So right now, your book is digital. So we're still waiting on the shipment of the actual book. It should be here pretty soon, but for now, it will lay on the digital platform. As well on this digital platform, there are some teacher tools and templates to use with the Phonics Companion. Now, when you actually get your physical book, then the access to the book will be gone. However, inside your book, you will find a new digital access code, and this is where you will have all of your digital tools and templates. So let's take a look at what is inside of these tools and templates. So here I've logged in. Here is the book up front here. And then on the bottom, here are my tools and templates. So in the first one about this resource, we have a welcome, how to use the resource, which we'll go through today, some related research articles if you want to know where this came from and the research behind it, and then a glossary of terms. So in this welcome, it kind of gives you a little idea about the authors, but what I really love is a site index. So you can really find some of the templates or things that you might use. You can go here and you'll be able to find it more easily than going through each and every single tab. Over here in the glossary, so if you are new to phonics, phonological awareness, all of those words that are brand new to some of us, this is a great glossary. It gives you kind of those words that you might see in the Phonics Companion Guide that you're not sure what they are. Here is a little glossary. This glossary is also found in your actual physical book, so you'll be able to flip to it quite easily. So that's in the about the resource. So I'm going to go back to home. Lesson resources. This is where you will have all the necessary materials to do your lessons. So you will have an SLP video of your grapheme phoneme correspondence, as well as any activity cards or activities that you will need to print out or use with your students. So that comes with all of your lessons. Now, your assessment and teacher tools. So in your general support here, I like this overview chart. So kind of gives you a glimpse of lessons 1 to 120, all the grapheme and phoneme correspondence that you'll be looking at, and some of those applying activities and target words. So we'll talk a little bit about what all of these things are, but it's a nice little overview chart for you so you can kind of see where you are and where you're headed with your students. Here is some differentiation strategies that you might want to use with your kiddos who are understanding or might need a little extra support. The alphabet song, and then a sample reading text. So you might see in your Phonics Companion Guide the Bug Club books. Now, some of those books don't apply to some of the GPCs, so they created a sample reading text that you could use. We didn't purchase these books because we did purchase other decodables like your Reading A to Z access, as well as the Scholastic book set that is in every school. So you can still find those phonics pieces in the resources that we purchased. Now I'm going to go back to that assessment and teacher tools. So your teacher tool line masters, these are just some different game templates that you could use with your kiddos. We are going to talk a little bit about Alconin boxes, but these are basically sound boxes that will help with your phonics instruction. There are also other samples of this on ELA EPD. Your assessment tool line masters. So this is where you would have your quick screener that you would do with your students, as well as some ongoing assessment. So your anecdotal tracking sheets are informal assessment records. And then finally, unit review materials. As after 4 lessons that you do with your students, you would do like a unit review of those 4 GPCs. So this is like a lesson template. And then here is kind of a gold mine. So it's a unit review activity master list. So if you want to practice some of those skills, they have some games that you could play with your students. So there's 17 pages of different games to practice and reinforce those skills. So this is the online portion. Again, the book shall be coming soon, fingers crossed. But for now, it will lie here, but you will always have digital access to these tools and templates. So let's dive a little bit more into the Phonics Companion. So again, I talked about this Phonics Companion overview chart, just some of the gems. I kept them in the slideshow so that you know some of those gems. Now, you might have already heard me say the word grapheme, phoneme, and GPC. So a phoneme is the smallest unit of sound. So we think of that as the lights off. What do you hear when you speak, right? So you hear that. It's a phoneme. Now, grapheme is the written letter for that phoneme. So we call it a grapheme phoneme correspondent, or short GPC. So you might hear me say that. That's what I am saying. So the framework for the Phonics Companion Guide is found on page 6. So it's divided into 3 things: modeling, consistency, and sequential design. So modeling, we're really thinking about that gradual release model where you do it as a teacher. So I do it, then we do it as a class, and then the students are doing it on their own and practicing. This is really helping to reinforce those skills. And again, it's that modeling piece. So be explicit in your instruction, model for them first, then have them repeat after you. Consistency. So you should be doing your phonics instruction about 20 minutes every single day. That consistency helps to reinforce those skills and practice those skills where we can have that mastery level of that GPC. And that's really what we want as teachers. Finally, that sequential design. We want to follow a scope and sequence from the Phonics Companion Guide because it's really laid out to help build upon those skills, starting with those consonant sounds and moving your way through the GPCs, building those skills. The scope and sequence for the Phonics Companion is found on page 8 of your Phonics Companion Guide. So it is there for you so that you want to make sure that you're following from lesson 1 to 120 as we go through grade 1 and grade 2. Now, Christine Knight has also developed a scope and sequence for grades 1 and grades 2, and she took that scope and sequence and really chunked it out by your months from September to June. You will notice in there that she was not started right away in September because it's really important to be building those relationships. And in grade 2, actually, you don't even start any Phonics Companion because we do know that you're going to be doing some assessments with your students. Christine Knight is going to make a video on this, but just quickly, she did include some decodable text. So when you're working on a GPC and you want a decodable text that correlates with that, she has linked that with our Scholastic book set that we purchased, as well as your Reading A to Z and You Fly as well, which is online and free decodable books for you. As well, she looked at those high frequency words for grade 1 and grade 2 and chunked them out throughout the year so that you are already taught that GPC, and then you can really reinforce and help with that high frequency word. So the Phonics Companion Quick Screener tool is found on the digital platform as well as inside your physical books. So if you are a grade 1 teacher, you are going to start at lesson 1. Grade 2, you're going to complete this quick screener with each of your students. And then you're going to find where about 80% of your students don't understand your GPCs, and that's where you're going to start. You can always start a little bit earlier. It's always better. It helps to reinforce those skills and build that mastery level before you move on. So again, grade 1, start at lesson 1. Grade 2, complete that quick screener. Now, what does phonics instruction look and sound like in action? Well, grade 1 and grade 2 teachers know this, but model, model, model. Be explicit in your instruction. Really make sure you are modeling for them what it sounds like and what it looks like. I really liked this idea from Miriam and Michelle, if you've been going to the Pillars of Reading, and they talked about where students have to see it, they have to say it, they have to sort it and spell it. And that really helps to develop that mastery level and build their understanding. As well, that embodied phonics instruction. Has to be fun. And so really, if you are, for example, practicing how to do a letter S, instead of just doing it with your finger, do it with your whole arm. The bigger the muscles you use, the bigger the memory retention you will have and the more connections that are made. You can also tap out the sound. So you would start at your shoulder. So k, a, t, and then blend it together. Cat, k, a, t, cat. As well, bringing in some music or chants really get the students moving and grooving and helps them, again, bigger memory retention when we are embodying our phonics instruction. It also makes it really fun for the kiddos. So bringing that joy to phonics learning. Create and use engaging activities. You can use them from the Phonics Companion. They come with some wonderful activities as well. There are plenty I know that you can use as well that you've been already doing. Make anything a game. Anytime you make a game, there's big buy-in with your students. Incorporate picture books or literature that help them to practice their skills. They're very excited to tell you when they find something that they've been learning in the classroom. That hands-on and multi-sensory activities. So those sorting with the word tiles, really working with those Alconin boxes. So being able to bring up your little gems or your Play-Doh or your cars or your elastic bands. All of these things really help to get them engaged and bring that joy. And finally, tying instruction into other subject areas really builds up meaningful connections for the students as well. Like I said, they're so happy to tell you that they've already seen this and they've learned something. So this is a little video of a teacher who is doing a phonics lesson. I have it linked here so you'll be able to watch it. But basically, you will notice that she's very explicit. She models first to her students. They repeat after her, and then they do it on their own. And you'll see that they're using these cookie sheets. They only have a few letters on the top, and those yellow pieces are their Alconin boxes. So today I'm going to go through a little bit what it might look like. So Phonics Companion lessons are all divided into 3 portions: introducing that GPC, applying the GPC, and consolidating the GPC. So possible lesson breakdown would look like this. So again, 20 minutes every single day. You start with a review of your past lesson, and then you introduce your new GPC. Now they usually have an SLP video that comes with it. You are modeling for your students, and then you're doing that blending to read. So you could use those Alconin boxes to help with that blending, or again, that tapping of the shoulder. It also comes with an applying activity that you could use as well. Then on day 2, again, 20 minutes, you begin with a review of what you did last class, so that modeling and blending to read of that GPC. Then the students are really going to dive into a learning activity which comes with the Phonics Companion, or another activity that you feel would fit so that they can really practice and reinforce those skills. Finally, we have the consolidating piece. That's where we're making sure that our students are actually understanding what we are learning. And we are also reading and identifying that GPC in text. So this is where your decodable books will come in handy to help you. A possible instruction for the week for phonics would look like this. So your lesson 1, so your 1 GPC would be on Monday and a Tuesday. And then you would introduce a new GPC and you'd have your day 1 and day 2 lesson on Wednesday and Thursday. And finally, Friday would be that review of lesson 1 and 2. 20 minutes every day. Slow down, grade 1 and 2 teachers. You do not have to go as far as you used to. And really, this is about developing that mastery level of those GPCs and that phonics instruction so that they can move forward. And we'd rather have that mastery of those than just moving on to get through. Ideally, grade 1s would go through lesson 1 to 60, but if you don't go further than you need to because you really want to develop that mastery level. So, for example, lesson 76, we have the consonant OO, the sound. So day 1, you would start with your review of lesson 75, and you would go through your introducing and applying. Then day 2, again, 20 minutes, start with your review, do your learning activity, and then consolidating piece. So when we're introducing, remember that we're starting with the shift. So now we're really introducing sound first, then corresponding with that letter, the grapheme and phoneme correspondence. So if I was doing this, it would be Everybody say it, So we were starting with that modeling piece, then we would start going into that writing piece. There is an SLP video, so a QR code that is on every lesson. I also really like these mouth pictures. So again, that C portion, they can see what the sound looks like. And as well, it will tell you kind of what your breath is doing. These are all linked for you, so you can use these in the classroom. I would print them out and have them, or else you could even have your students do these and then be able to post them in the classroom. Every single phonics companion lesson comes with target words and then challenge words. You'll notice these are one syllable with the grapheme phoneme correspondent, and then these are the blends with the grapheme phoneme correspondence. So a little bit more challenging for the students. So you would start with one of the target words and you would go and you would model first. Then you would go into your blending to read and write. So this is an Alconin box that I created. So you would tap out the sound. You would then map out those letters. So here are the letter squares that come with the lesson. And then they could actually write out the word. You could put this into a sleeve, a protective sleeve, or you could create this and have this on a whiteboard. So for example, if I'm going to do the word, my target word is book. So I would start with my tap, Now let's do it together. Okay, now let's blend it. Book. So they would be tapping this out. Now you could also get some gems, or you could get some Play-Doh or cars, anything that they can use to move, and they would actually physically move the pieces up as they're saying the sounds. You'll see in that video how the students were doing that. Finally, then you would use your letter tiles to bring them up as well. All of the phonics companion lessons also come with an applying activity. So for this particular lesson, it's a yes or no activity where they're looking at the differences between the sound and the sound. So book, moon, oon. So they went through an activity. Again, you're applying those skills to make sure that students are understanding that GPC. The last piece is that consolidating piece. So this is where you're going to make sure your students really understand that GPC. So you will look at some decodable text. So for example, this is a Scholastic Phonics School and Home from your book set. And you could practice that with the kiddos and make sure that they recognize and see that GPC in a text. You could also create a sentence for them to write out using, again, only the skills that they have already learned. There is a link to a decodable text guide here that goes with the scope and sequence created by Christine Knight, which again shows some of the Scholastic books you could use, the Reading A to Z decodable sets, or that U-Fly set. After 4 lessons that you've done with your students, there is a unit review. So this is really your chance to solidify and make sure your students are understanding to develop that mastery level of the GPCs and really get to know what students are still struggling. So there are templates to create your unit review. And again, this wonderful gem, unit review activity master list, where you can use to really make sure that your students are understanding those 4 GPCs that you've been introducing over the past several weeks. Again, pointing it to you, the assessment tools that are on the digital platform. There's an anecdotal tracking sheet and an informal assessment record. They do recommend doing it about every 12 lessons that you would do. I also would think about doing the quick screener, maybe before progress report time or parent-teacher conferences, so you could really discuss with the parents what they are doing well and some areas where they might still be struggling. With any resource, we always want to think about managing our resources. So consider laminating those little letter boxes or sorts, or maybe using Scrabble tiles or magnetic letters as well. The Alconin boxes that you want to use, consider laminating or putting it in a protective sleeve, or maybe even using whiteboards. And then those activity masters that you use, put them in a protective sleeve and use them as a center activity so that they can be reused over and over again. As well, because a lot of the activity masters are online, you could use it as an interactive tool with your students. And again, there are lots of activities that you can do with the Phonics Companion, but you don't have to do them all. And sometimes you might have a different activity that works, and that's perfectly okay. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me at my email or phone number. I'm happy to help you get started with the Phonics Companion. I'm really excited about this resource, and I hope you are too. Thank you so much, and have an absolutely wonderful day.